You're watching the Juice Consumer Direct Podcast. I'm Carson Poppenger here with Justin Jump, and we have a special guest here today with us, Alex Pflueger, our HR Director. So welcome, Alex.
Thank you. Thrilled to be here.
Alex, you've been with us now for coming up, about 6-8 months, I think.
Mm-hmm. 7 months.
Came in the middle of last year. And Alex has been a great addition to our team, handling our HR functions and everything and helping us up-level our HR position. And Alex, your background before you joined us was with the city of Austin in Texas, really big municipality, and you handled HR functions there with them. You had, 8 different divisions that you were kind of helping support for HR.
Yep.
And the city of Austin had 15,000 employees. And so, that was really initially like what sort of we got excited about. Of course, like when we got to know you and everything, you're a great culture fit with our team and everything like that. But such a great background, nearly 10 years in HR. And before that, you were with, you studied at BYU and things. So, yeah.
She is a Longhorns fan, though.
Oh.
So for me, it was kind of rough.
Vince Young.
For the intro, but is what it is.
What do you think about the Quinn Ewers draft pick?
It's about right. That's how it should have went down. That's how it should have went down.
I heard he basically passed up on $8 million for NIL to get basically like $800,000.
Really?
His contract first year will be $800,000.
Pretty much.
Is that pretty insane? Yeah, that's a crazy sacrifice. But he's playing at the highest level with a chance to compete for a starting position in the NFL.
Yeah.
So you can't.
He'll get there.
Yeah, he'll get there.
Got to earn it.
Yeah.
It's like everybody.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a sore subject, I guess, for Justin, our Sooners fan.
It's the only downside to Alex is
Sad
the
Sooners.
Longhorn thing.
I know. Sorry.
No, I'm just kidding.
Frenemies.
That goes
right.
back to the Austin. I'm sure that was fun doing some of the events they had there around Texas sports.
So fun.
Yeah.
It is like college town, little liberal hippie town, all in one place. And yeah, it's a fun little place. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad you're here with us now. So thanks for joining us. We're going to talk today a little bit about people, culture, people management, supporting our team, making sure that they feel, the opportunity and success that they can get from working at a company like Squeeze. And there's so much that goes into that. We could probably have a number of different episodes about this. So we're going to kick it off today and just talk a little bit about people and culture and what are your thoughts coming in? I mean, Alex, as you've worked in other companies and seen other companies and how they manage and support their people, what are some things that you've noticed that have been different about Squeeze and what we do?
Yeah. First of all, I think this is the most fun I've had supporting employees of any role I've had. And I think a big factor that separates Squeeze from the other organizations I've supported in the past is that we really focus on the fact that a lot of our employees, for them, this is their first opportunity in the workforce. And so a lot of that has really factored into why I love supporting this group. One of my favorite titles that we own here at Squeeze is the team lead. So yeah, shout out to my team leads. I love them. They're like our backbone day in and day out. And, our team leads, some of them haven't graduated college yet. For a lot of them, this is their first time working in an office environment. But they're so teachable. They're so ready to go all the time. And I love that energy. And I think a lot of that comes from us and up top as well. We've created an environment where they can just jump in and learn how to supervise, learn how to keep tabs on all of their metrics and make sure that they're meeting their goals. And I love that culture. And I think that really sets us apart is they are really learning these really valuable life skills at the earliest stages of their career. So.
Yeah, that title team lead, it's like I haven't given much thought to that for quite a while, but yeah, that was the deliberate title for that position because we really want them at the front of their team, leading their team. And we've sort of melded together with a lot of people from other companies over the years. And there's, it's something that we always stuck with was team lead in that position, because other companies maybe call them supervisors or coaches or
Sales coach.
coach or manager, junior manager, things like that. And really, we want them leading that team as they're setting an example. They know how to develop performance themselves, and then they know how to get the best out of others. And that's what they're doing in that role, in that position. And so that's interesting. Any thoughts you have, Justin?
Yeah, I think, and it sounds like we're dedicating this to our people. Honestly, our agents themselves, I think Alex brought up a good point. They're coming into this role probably not with any expectations, and they're leaving with a heap of skills that they're taking away that they wouldn't have had otherwise unless they came to us in the first place. And I think that's where I find the most joy day in and day out is being able to work with them and help educate them on, why doing what they're doing is so important, how they're helping others, the impact they're making, so on and so forth, because that can easily be forgotten in a environment like this. And especially with our TLs, they're having to lead by example. They're the ones who are actually not only leading the team, but also leading in stats, leading in performance, showing others how to do what it is that they should be doing. And that's a huge responsibility to own. So, that's a great thing about Squeeze is we have so many people who are invested in making sure that those frontline agents and team leads are successful.
I mean, a lot of organizations, in my career even, I didn't have some of those responsibilities until 5 or 6 years in. I wasn't given the opportunity to supervise, or whatever you want to call it, be a lead and have that responsibility. So if you look at how we run things, some of these agents become team leads, months in. And so they're really getting ahead of learning how to build a team and culture and run a business, really. So that really impressed me.
Yeah, we've done a lot of training with them. I know recently come out with a team lead handbook that we published, that you published, Justin. I think you put that together, and then we've done some training around it so that they understand sort of their roles and responsibilities, things they can be doing to lead the team. And, one thing that always sticks out to me in that position too is it's real easy for companies to put the wrong people in those positions. You're like, this person seems like a leader, let's make them the leader of the team. Or
they're good at sales.
Yeah, this is the number one producer. They're going to be able to lead
a team.
Yeah, this is the number one producer.
It's not always the case.
Right. It's really like, I think I boil that metric down to whether someone's going to be an effective team leader is, are you more valuable off the phone helping others improve their performance? Can you improve others' performance more effectively than even the time that you can take producing on the phone yourself? And if the answer is yes, then we want to get you into that role. And it's a stepping stone into becoming like an operations manager, becoming someone that's got multiple teams and team leaders that are on their team and that they're overseeing and developing. I mean, all in all, we probably have over 30 or 40 team leaders today, would you say?
Yeah. And that's continuing to grow. I'm currently working with a group of new junior TLs, and there's roughly 13 that are in that class right now. So it's constantly growing.
Yeah. That's a class of people too on our team that we are always looking to pull for other positions and opportunities that come up, because they're generally working full time. They have skills and things like that they understand the business, and they could step into assistant finance or HR or
well, that's what I was going to say is we really try to look for those that are well-rounded and are ready to take on more. So I think we look for those specific qualities, which helps us then we really can utilize their talents and resources in any direction. And that's really set us up for success, because I think a lot of what we do is promote within, and we're confident about that. We don't really just hand it out because we feel like they've been with us for a long time, or we feel bad that they haven't been promoted. These folks have really earned it, and it's because we choose those folks that have, that well-rounded factor.
And I think our program, and I know we're spending a lot of time on the TLs, but seriously, we're we're very grateful for all the hard work that they do. But the process we have those juniors go through, we don't just pick people to be TLs out of our agent population, right? We actually put people into a TL training program, and they go through a set amount of courses. I believe we have 11 courses that they go through. They learn and understand what it takes to be a good TL. They go through role plays, effective coaching strategies, things of that nature, and then we'll graduate them out. And I think that's the way it has to be done. It's too difficult for an organization to onboard a new leader without any type of training or education. I've been in that situation before where I've gone into a new role and nobody was onboarding me. And even though I felt confident in what it was that I was doing, without having the direction and being able to be taught systems or how to actually effectively do something, you're just setting yourself up for failure. And that's what I love about Squeeze and our leadership team is they're prepared, right? They're coming into opportunities being prepared versus having an opportunity and not being prepared.
Yeah, recently, shifting gears and talking about culture, we were doing an interview. I think, Alex, you might have been there when we were talking with a candidate, and I was talking about our culture. And I think I kind of said, companies will say, "Oh, we've got culture. We've got a ping pong table, or whatever.
Right.
And that's our culture, And so we're fun, and we've got things that people can do when they're here." And really, culture is like something that we look at and we understand that like it's really deeper than that, and it's it's kind of like fabrics of a sweater. It's like there's individual fabric and threads that go into that sweater, and when you put the sweater on, it feels good, but like there's a lot of different elements to that, and a ping pong table can certainly be one of them. But I said we don't have a ping pong table; we have a golf simulator.
Yeah.
That's right. One up it.
But what are you guys thinking about our culture?
Well, something that you mentioned for me. Culture is wanting to get up the next day and go to work, right? Like if I'm waking up and I'm dreading driving into work because I don't want to get there and start doing my day-to-day stuff, that's a bad culture. And I think that's an honest question that you can ask people and maybe understand, like, hey, how are you feeling about getting up and going to work today? And if it's not a good answer, like you got a problem there that needs to be checked. So there's a lot that goes into that, and it takes years to develop culture, but it also takes a minute to destroy culture with the decisions or the micromanagement or whatever it is that you're struggling with, and you're always trying to balance out those, I believe, right?
Yeah, we've seen that too, like, not getting back to team leads, but like they are a huge part of our culture, and making sure we have the right team leads there, that they're well trained. One conversation that they handle incorrectly can really just like completely snowball and make someone feel like this isn't a place that I want to work or be. And so it's really important that those conversations are handled carefully. For instance, like if an employee has a question about something, it's really important, I think, that leader hears the question and then tries to give the best explanation that they can about why that maybe is the way it is, rather than saying something like, I don't know why that's the way it is, but just don't worry about that. Just get back to work, kind of a thing. Like that's probably like one of the most damaging things that leader can say. They're like, okay, when they could easily just say, well, this is, my understanding of the way it is, but I'm not really sure. I'll find out, and we're going to revisit this. Yeah. I mean, that's okay too, right? And making sure that people understand and why things are the way that they are. And I always try to lead by example that way, by explaining things maybe more than I probably should, or need to. But I think you do need to, because then people understand why, and when they understand why, then then things make more sense.
Yeah, that's it. You have to understand the why, and you have to be able to be open enough to explaining the why in every scenario. If even in these small conversations that you're having, there always has to be a why involved, or else they're not going to understand why I'm going to do what it is you're asking me to do. And I feel like those conversations, if they're not happening often, it's also a problem. You need to be having those conversations all the time with your people. And If done in the right way, you're going to see a cultural shift immediately versus having to take years and years and years to rebuild or rebrand yourself, if you will.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, Alex, on the?
Well, when you asked the culture question, I kind of went back to our first interview, actually, when I came in to interview for this position. I remember one thing you said to me was, you'll find here that, a lot of folks that work here, they might not necessarily love the work, but they love working here. And that always stuck with me because I think it's so true that, being on the phones is tough. Everybody would admit, anybody who's done it before, there are days when it's hard to pull through. But we have students that leave for the summer, come back every year. We have folks that, work through school because, it's a great opportunity for them. And so I think we've done a good job making it a place where people want to be, like Justin said, and they like coming in. They have similarities with other people around them. And I think the drive that we push for people, it kind of makes them like-minded in that sense. And kind of going off of what you said with leadership, I think one of my biggest priorities is that I am available to all employees at all times. I mean, I've been in organizations where that's not the case. You can't get answers, you can't get responses, and I think that is such a big part of culture. I mean, I don't know a CEO that responds to, employees, but you do, and I think that speaks volumes that we're all accessible to our employees, even though we're, managing, we still make ourselves open to conversations with anybody that works for us.
Yeah, Carson, I think it's great. You interact with our employee population 24/7. Like and that's rare, and it's or at least from my experience, it's been rare throughout my work history. But that's kudos to you, because that's who I want to work for. I want to work for a place that's very transparent, that's talking with its people, that is aware of what's going on, and kind of being ground level to understanding what's happening.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's definitely gotten more challenging too, and it's one of the things that frustrates me is not knowing everybody individually like I used to at one time.
Yeah.
Like we would know people. It's like I'd go into training and I'd meet people and I'm like, okay, I'm going to remember your name because I'm going to see you again and I'm going to talk to you. But now we're like approaching 500 people, and it's really hard to remember faces and names, and I may interact with them once every 3 months or something like that. And so that is something that's more difficult and challenging, frustrating for me as the company's grown, to be able to continue to maintain that personal connection. We recently moved all of our chat from we had all of our key chat over Skype, which is being retired. Yeah. We kept our management team and all that on Skype.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Skype.
RIP.
2025. Skype's been around for, I don't know, since as long as I've been doing the business. We made original calls over Skype.
Wow.
Yeah.
We hooked up Skype numbers, and we were using InContact at the time, and we would point those to a Skype phone number, and the agents were using Skype. But Skype's retiring. But we had all of our key conversations in there, which was kind of relatively small and easy to track. Now we're in Google Chat, and there's 500 people, and I could get messaged from anybody in the company. And so my thing's always blowing up. I'm trying to keep up with all those individual conversations. But communication, I think just having that willingness to be open. And I always say it's hey, if my door's open, come in, say hi, grab a drink. And people do, and that's a great opportunity to interact with and talk with people, and
Yeah, Alex, how often do you feel like leaders should interact with their people? And this is not just as a team. Obviously, I would hope that everyone's doing that on a daily basis, but individuals, right? The one-on-ones, the personal coaching sessions. How important is that?
Just in general?
Yeah, just in general.
I mean, I think it is so critical in every single aspect of the business, because we're only as great as our leaders and the people that we choose for our teams, right? So I think especially when you're at the beginning stages of leadership, as a team lead, as an operations manager, you've got to be in the trenches with your folks. Like, there is no above anything. You've got to know the work, do the work, join your team. And my last supervisor at the city of Austin was great about this. Everything we did was, it was all collaborative. It was never top-down kind of attitude. And I think the higher up you go, obviously it gets more difficult. Like Carson said, he can't have a relationship with 500 people every single day, but he does have a relationship with us every single day. And I think whatever level you're at, you've got to be in tune with all the folks right below you, right across your peers. And also, for me or for you, we're in very much an employee supporting role. So I would argue for someone like me and Justin in recruiting and training and myself in HR, for employees, I talk to employees every single day. They come in my office every single day. They chat me. I probably have 5 chats to 20 chats waiting for me right now, but that's because they know I'm going to respond to them. We try to be very engaged with them. So I think at every level, it changes a little bit. The higher up you go, you can't have a really strong relationship with every single person, but you can certainly make sure you're choosing people that are going to be in tune with the folks around them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. And one of the things that I've witnessed with both of you and how you're handling those conversations, that people are comfortable coming to talk to you and they know that they're not going to be, brushed aside or that they're going to be seen and heard and everything. I think that that's such an important thing. And one of the things that, I'm glad that you're in those roles that you're in, because I know that you handle those conversations really well. So, one of the things that we were going to talk about too on this episode was sort of, performance, accountability, crucial conversations. As I've sort of experienced, I've been involved in leading people now for 30 years in various capacities as I started my career, and then through Squeeze as we've been growing this over the last, 15 years, difficult conversations need to happen. And if they're avoided, then that generally leads to, negative consequences. Someone's going to be either the behavior is going to continue to get worse, or people's expectations of their own behavior is going to remain where it is. And you're not going to see change. You're not going to see improvement. You're not going to see things turn a corner, And so, do you guys have any thoughts on crucial conversations? And that's been a big part of our sort of people culture, is that book series that's, I can't remember the name of the authors, but there's a whole series, Crucial Conversations, Crucial Accountability. It's a Provo, Utah-based company. And
great book.
Yeah.
Everyone should read that book.
Yeah. I think there's some BYU professors that actually wrote that series. Mm-hmm. And they give a lot of examples and some case studies and things like that. But let's talk about crucial conversations and accountability.
They're not had enough, and I think in the workspace you can recognize when those are being had and when they're not. And I know for me throughout my career, it's not always easy having that conversation. That's why it's a crucial conversation, right? Nobody wants to sit down with somebody and talk about them being smelly, or talk about, hey, you have a social, there's a social interaction concern, or there's a, whatever it might be. They're not easy conversations, or maybe it is a performance. Maybe it's something that you continually find behavioral wise that's happening in their work. It's not easy to sit down and have that conversation, but the best leaders are the ones who are having those conversations. And you lead with the heart. I think everyone would agree. You can't go in there full force swinging and demanding this or being upset or whatever the case may be. You got to make sure you're centered and lead with your heart, and you got to find common ground, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you got to put somebody at rest before you're able to jump into that conversation. And once again, that's also not easy, but whenever you're able to do that, fireworks happen. Like, you're going to see some amazing results, because I think that's where you also build trust with the person that you're talking to. And that's everything in a relationship, especially between a coworker and a leader, right? Or an employee and a leader. Trust has to be built. And if there's some uneasiness going on that you never address, that trust is always on shaky grounds.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed in my career is whether you're the one delivering or receiving, a lot of how you react and how well you react has a lot to do with how in tune you are with yourself
Yeah.
and your personal growth. And I've found that the folks that are successful in it are folks that have already had those conversations about themselves to themselves. So they've already internally practiced, really, even if you haven't verbally said it out loud. You've kind of had those conversations with yourself, and that self-awareness of, I really need to work on this, or I'm really struggling in this area. And the folks that really have a hard time with crucial conversations either have no expectations for themselves or too much expectations for themselves. And they have a hard time having that balance of, how can I deliver this in a way that's going to be received well? Or how can I take this in a way that's effective for myself? So I think a lot of it starts with your personal growth, and where you are with yourself can really affect how you actually have those conversations with others around you. Mm-hmm. And, in my time, even to this day, when I have to have a hard conversation with somebody, I practice out loud. I practice to myself. I'll write down keywords that I want to bring up, just because, I want to get it right the first time, because people will remember the words that you say to them when it's sensitive, when it's, a hot topic. So just having that practice with yourself and being prepared, I think, goes a long way.
Yeah, those are, I'm, thinking about situations that, I've been in, and it's sort of jogging my memory about just different examples and things that I've had to handle and dealing with. And you may have a crucial conversation I've had crucial conversations with my superiors before, and clients. I've had to you sit down and have a crucial conversation with a client about maybe it's the way that the project's going, or performance, and maybe financial. It could be a financial concern, it could be things like that, personality conflicts that have happened. And so we're all dealing with conflicts and issues that are sort of impeding progress in some way, whether it's an employee relationship or just, progress in general on a given project or partnership. And those conversations have to happen for things to move forward.
Well, and what's interesting about those, Carson, is no matter how much preparation you put into it, right? I don't know if you've ever caught yourself doing this. You prepare for so long, and then actually you sit down to have that actual conversation, and you get, for whatever reason, there's some emotion that's coming out, right? Maybe you're upset about whatever it is you're talking about. The slightest thing can throw that conversation for a loop, and you're sitting there having a totally different result than what you would have. Mm-hmm. Had you have not gone down that road. And so it's interesting. It's something I think everyone needs to think about is, hey, am I centered? Is right now the time for me to have this conversation, or do I need to give this more time before I step in and have a different result than what I was hoping to have?
Yeah, I've been guilty of that. I get fired up. I was fired up this morning about something, and you got to make sure that the emotions are in check for sure. Because that can derail the conversation and lead to a different outcome than what you'd hoped. I think you talked a little bit about expectations and things. I think that's something that I found in cases where I've had the most friction. It's like maybe someone's expectations of their own performance is way up here, but our expectations as a company, as leadership, is hey, there's a lot of improvement that needs to happen. But being able to get them to understand, I've kind of said before, and one of my quotes that the team's heard me say is if they think they're an A already, they may never actually become an A, right? Because there's things that people are seeing about their performance, the way they're interacting with others, or whatever it might be, something that they need to get that feedback. And if they don't get that feedback, then they're going to continue to think they're an A, and that, hey, I'm doing my job perfectly, and I don't know why I deserve, better treatment, better responsibility, whatever it might be. And you got to be able to have that conversation and help them so that they can overcome that and get to that point where they're really their expectations, the way they're seeing themselves is the way that everybody else sees them as well, And so what do
Yeah.
you think about, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think about, I don't know if y'all know the SMART goal theory, but I use that for myself and my direct reports as a way to set expectations, and it stands for specific, measurable,
attainable, relevant,
right.
timely.
Yeah, and then timely. So kind of factoring that all in, I think really helps make sure that you all understand what the expectations are. And when the expectations are clear, it makes the crucial conversation a straight shoot, in my opinion, because they've already been told, they know, what that expectation is. And I think that really causes for no confusion. So when you have that follow-up conversation, and whether it's, positive or negative feedback, the expectation has been clear, and they have the why as to why those were the expectations. And I think it just makes, as a supervisor or a peer, whatever the case is, it's just a much more easy conversation.
And it makes the follow-up easier, right?
Right.
Like you can go into that follow-up with confidence rather than being concerned about, am I making the right decision with the conversation that I'm having here? No, you should be confident, because when you set the SMART goal, it's in their control, right? It's something that is bound to be achievable, and that is now the goal that has been set. And it's easier for you to now go follow up on that and say, hey, was XYZ hit? If it's not, what do we do from here? Right. So it makes that conversation a little bit easier. And I think ultimately the end goal is to build a better relationship and improve performance. And that's how you get to that point, is through setting a SMART goal and actually following up on that goal. It's the most crucial part of it. If you don't do it,
Yeah.
you got nothing.
And I know sometimes people can be resistant to that too, because there's an accountability aspect of that, that they don't want to have that kind of visibility into, like, okay, what am I doing and what are the results I'm producing, and how's my, you're actually measuring the performance, and I just think it's necessary for really for everyone, including myself. And I try to make sure that I'm personally holding myself accountable to SMART goals as well, so that your expectations of us and the company, and are we meeting your expectations. It's such a vital part of building a successful team and culture. So,
and I love that. And you can think of it from layers, right? You can think from the top down, the company, the people, the client, right? Or however you want to think of it, is it's all relative to what it is that you're doing, the bottom line.
Yeah. Other fun cultural things that we've had going on at Squeeze. We, Alex, you helped us apply for, and we were awarded the number 4 mid-sized company, best places to work in the state of Idaho for Eastern Idaho. And then we got number 9 in the whole state of Idaho. So that's pretty cool for our first time applying for and being considered for that. And I know our people surely are a big part of that, and the, helping us receive that award. They, the nominations and all the things that go into that. But you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was so excited to hear that we were winners in both categories that we applied for. I think, we have 3 locations. So a lot of times I support all 3. We all support all 3 locations. You don't always see what's going on at the other locations, but we try to keep tabs on what's going on, and we do engage with that employee body as well out there. And it was just it was like a reassurance that we do have that great relationship. We don't see them every day, but we do chat with them every day. We work with them every day. We're on calls with them every day. So it made me feel, confident that even from our headquarters in Orem, we really do have that really strong tie and influence with our other locations. And Rexburg has its own culture. They have their own site with the fun things that they do as a team out there. So it was really reassuring, like I said, to see them thriving as well.
That really was an evolution for us, and it hasn't always been this way. We tried initially, and I think we've talked about it before on this pod, is we had a location probably 10 years ago where we tried to have another office that was just about 20 minutes north of our other location. And just that 20-minute distance, we were hiring in a different population. They had their different leaders and things like that. And I was always saying that I want to get the cheeseburger to taste the same, like McDonald's or In-N-Out. When you go to In-N-Out, you got consistent, no matter what In-N-Out you pull into.
Yeah, you know what you're getting.
Yeah, you know what you're getting. And, that I feel like we now have that through maybe some of the cloud programs that we've sort of rolled out and that people are interacting with, our training and things like that. That's really certainly helped out a lot. We've also transplanted leadership in many cases to different locations, and that's also gone into helping that become really successful. We also try to involve those leaders as much as we can at our main headquarters location, coming down for quarterly business reviews with clients and coming down and interacting with some of our leadership events and things. But thankfully today, I really feel like we've been very fortunate to develop that culture that's been consistent across all locations. And that was really a challenging thing. And I know many big companies face that where, you have locations maybe in other states and things. And we really check in on each other as managers, I think, because with the site directors on the other sites, I genuinely work with them as much as Connor, he's an operations manager right next to me. So we really are so intertwined as managers, and we all meet very regularly. And I think that causes for our culture to be consistent to some degree across the board. Yeah, absolutely. I think, that's the time that you spend with them and the fact that they know that they can reach out to you and communicate with you. Definitely, that level of interaction is so important.
But once again, testament to you, because
Agreed.
It's not, it's
It's
rare.
top down.
You don't find it everywhere, right? And it's difficult to come by that, and sometimes it does take years to change that around. And luckily, it hasn't done that at Squeeze. So,
any other thoughts on people and culture that we want to hit on? We're kind of coming down to wind down the episode here, and anything that you wanted as final thoughts, Alex? Anything that you want to add to this?
I think my final thought is that you just have to remember your employee count is it's not just a number. Those are, your employees and people who have lives outside of their shift at work, and just remembering that they have value that exceeds what you see in the workplace, and really diving into that can elevate your workplace.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that.
I think for me, it's recognizing and remembering that the CEO's responsibilities, even though they might be greater than our frontline agents, has the same importance, right? Like, don't look at a title so much as to who I am within an organization, but understand it as, hey, I have a job to do, and if I do my best at that every single day, then we're all moving towards the same purpose and common goal.
Yeah, and my final thought, I always think, I've mentioned it a few times recently as well, is that I've never been as confident as I am today in the leadership group that we have and the people that are leading our teams and our teams throughout all of our locations. And that's really what's driving a lot of our success. Things happen and they're being carried out in ways that are consistent with the decisions we make. And I think when you think about like culture coming down to the decisions individuals make in leadership roles, independent from me and the decisions that I'm making, or I know that they're going to carry it out the way that we as a company would carry it out. I think that then that's a good measure of culture and success. And I think we're there, and I'm really happy with the team that we have and the way they're handling things. And so I think this episode's been great. A really good opportunity to reflect on people and culture. It's one of the hardest things that companies deal with is many people don't want to have a business because they don't want to deal with people, and I've heard that a number of times. I mean, it really is. I've heard that from so many entrepreneurs who are like, oh, I want to have a company, but I want to have a business where I don't have to deal with people, well, good luck with that. But, I think when you really understand the value that they bring, and that they truly do, the people and the team that we have are helping me pay my bills, basically. And when I understand that, it's not me paying their bills, it's them helping us accomplish our goals. How do we foster them? How do we grow and support them the best way possible? And that's really, I think, what it comes down to for us and what we're doing. And so hopefully you've gained a few things from this episode on people and culture. And you've been watching the Juice Consumer Direct podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Love to hear your thoughts or questions about this. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.